Hey everybody, welcome to another video. I've got a special one for you. I wanted to make a list of plugins that I actually use all the time, that I use in all of my current productions. This is a top 10 list, but if you stick around, I've got some special ones at the end that don't really fit into any categories, but it would be a shame if you were to miss out on. So I broke these into different categories here: EQ, compressor, reverb, saturation, limiter plugins, other tasty treats here at the end that if you stick around, I want to show you some of my favorites. Now real quick today, guys, it's important to understand none of these companies are sponsoring this video. Certainly no one pays me to actually use these in my sessions, and I think that's the important point here. Beyond all the stuff I get to try, these are the ones I'm picking out. It'd be hard to replace these. It is, however, sponsored by Sweetwater, but more on that later. Stick around to the end for one plugin that kind of does the job of all of these plugins. First, let's start out with EQ. If you haven't heard of this, welcome to the internet, but FabFilter Pro-Q 3, it is just that thing. It's a surgical EQ that works crazy fast, and once you get to know it, you know it like the back of your hand. I can EQ just about anything really, really fast. The ability to do things dynamically in that plugin, super tasty. Pro-Q 3, you probably know what it is. All these things will be linked in the description below, so check those out and stay tuned for the end for some special ones. Number 2, EQ, Plugin Alliance AMEK EQ 200. This is a little more expensive. I have not heard a plugin EQ like this, period. Another engineer buddy of mine turned me on to this thing, and I can't get enough of it. It sounds so good. And its intelligent like selection filters will let you kind of sweep through things. And it's super easy to use, albeit it might be a little intimidating for that style of plugin. It's definitely modeled after an analog piece, so it can be weird to get your head around if you've never worked in that world before, but it sounds so good, so good, so useful. Check it out. It is an expensive plugin, but I have the Plugin Alliance yearly thing, and I think at the end of that, you can pick a few plugins to keep. That one's coming with me. Moving on to compressor plugins. Compressor plugins can kind of be a couple different things for me. They can add color, a lot of times when I'm reaching for a compressor, sometimes it's for color. Like if I'm going for an 1176 type of vibe, I get an 1176. I really don't care which version it is of it. And everybody's got an 1176, so I'm not even going to include one of those in here. My compressors that I use the most out of any compressor ever, Waves RX and RVox. They are the simplest things to use, but my gosh, it's hard for me to mix a session without those two things. Links in the description below, 29 bucks a piece. Stupid value for that amount of use, and RX is actually useful on a whole lot of other things. And RVox just is that finishing touch on a vocal track for me. And if you want to get surgical, FabFilter Pro-C to no use. All right, guys, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Hey!
Oh, hey!
How are you guys doing?
It's been a long time. We were just talking.
How long has it been? Too long. What are you guys out doing?
No, we're just out on a date, enjoying each other.
I apologize for this. I thought you two had separated.
We did go through a rough patch. That is true, but we managed to work things out.
That's great. What did you do?
Well, if you must know, we added a third to the relationship.
Added a third?
I know it's taboo, but it works for us. Look, it's nothing major. His name is Paul. He's right over there.
Paul.
We found him on the Sweetwater Gear Exchange.
You found him?
Yeah, honestly, at Sweetwater's Gear Exchange, you can find all those little additions to make the sweet music that you always knew you could.
Found him?
And if it's not working out,
I'm sorry.
You can always list it on the Sweetwater Gear Exchange. And if you decide to take the payout in the form of a gift card, Sweetwater doesn't take any fees.
This all sounds great, but
now we're making the best music we've ever made, right, honey? And now the neighbors hear it when we do.
Okay, that's inappropriate.
This is a compressor that has tons of options, and you can do just about anything you want to do with it. But I view this more, and I use it more as a surgical compressor because you can get in there and do the nitty-gritty stuff with it. If I want color, I'm going to reach for something else. Although this can get colored, I treat this as when I really need to control something that's hard to control in any other way. And for that use case, it's very nice to have in the bag ready to go. Reverb plugins. Reverb is one of those things I feel like I settle into ruts with, and I have my habits, and I have my plugins that I reach for, and I reach for them for vibe. There's two now that I've used more than anything, and one that I've just recently picked up. The first one, Valhalla Vintage Verb. Valhalla makes crazy reverb, and I own them all, but the one that I use the most is Vintage Verb. It just does the thing. It is vibey. You can get plate sounds with it, you can get room sounds with it, but it does get hairy, and it can get vintagey, but it can also do the modern thing as well. For that reason, it has to be on this list. It's $50. The other one that I've just recently gotten into, and as much as I like FabFilter stuff, I'm surprised it took me this long to try it. FabFilter Pro-R may be one of the most powerful reverbs I've ever used. It is so unbelievably flexible, and the presets that are built into this thing are already like 75% of the way there. What this reverb does for me is it gets me to think creatively, and the controls built into it, the brightness control, the stereo field controls, it's built for moving fast, and I appreciate it, but the sounds in this thing are so lush and so real. It's a different feeling reverb than a lot of other plugins out there, and it's hard to explain without trying it, so at least go try it out. I assume there's a demo, I'll link it below. Saturation plugins. These are really important, especially when we're dealing with like modern interfaces that are crazy clean. That's not the stuff that we find pleasing to the human ear. We're used to listening to stuff on tape, stuff that's grungy, stuff that's dirty, stuff wants attitude. And my all-time favorite saturator is Cranesong Phoenix 2. Almost one of the most expensive plugins I have ever purchased. Right now it's $449. Stupid. It does go on sale. The bummer about this plugin is it's only AAX, so if you're not in the Pro Tools world, I don't think you can use this plugin. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm gonna offer an alternative to this. Cranesong is my all-time favorite, as far as like a tape saturator goes. If you can't use that, Soundtoys Decapitator. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. I have tried replacing Decapitator with any number of things, but I always come back to Decapitator. This just works. It sits in a mix, it does what it needs to do, and it gets out of the way. The other one, I find this useful both in a mix context and a mastering context. FabFilter Saturn 2. I'm noticing a theme here. I have a lot of FabFilter stuff. I don't think I really leaned on that company. I'm now realizing I do. Nothing is sponsored, by the way. FabFilter Saturn 2, think of it as a multi-band saturator. You can pick different points in the spectrum and saturate them differently with different circuits. I use this all the time on my mastering chain, just ever so subtly. If you want to like gnarly up the top end or the mid-range of a mix but leave the low end alone, this is great for that. You can even use this plugin with an IR as a guitar amp if you want to. There's a lot you can do with Saturn. And I feel like when I first got it, it just sat there and I didn't do much with it because it looks intimidating. It's not your typical like plugin form factor, so it's hard to wrap your head around it. But the more you use it and you get into it, it is an insanely powerful tool for sonic control and general harmonic shaping of a sound. Last section, limiters. Just a reminder, I have some bonus ones here at the end. Limiter plugs. I will go at this with the caveat that I don't use limiters very heavily. For me, they're like very precise tools. That's how I view limiters, especially in the context of mastering. I'm not trying to like just abuse it. If you're going for a limiter, you just want to control something. Waves MV2 is great on bass. I use it on every bass chain just to control things. Waves L1. If you just want to obliterate something and pin it, L1 is great. But for those more surgical, precise things, and where I find myself using limiters the most, FabFilter Pro L2, I feel like there are better sounding limiters. Some of the algorithms I really don't like on that plug. I find that I use the all-around algorithm the most. I don't know if I'm calling it the right thing. Is it algorithms or just modes? I have no idea. Whatever it is, all around. Being able to decide how much transient linking you have between the stereo field, The option of oversampling is there if you want it. And being really, really precise with the attack time and the release time is a godsend in a plugin like that. It has a really dependable set of meters, and often I find that's what I'm using it for. If I'm running broadcast in a spot where I'm not super familiar with the room or the tools that I have, I'll have an instance of Pro-L2. It's not doing any limiting, but I'm using it for those meters because I trust those meters really, really well. The other one that goes without saying, isotope ozone stuff, fantastic limiters. Really, really good limiters. And actually right now, Ozone 10 Advanced is like 50% off. I'll put a link in the description below, $250. If you don't have Ozone right now, now's a great time to go pick it up. It is one of those tools that I use a lot. And if you have the advanced version, you can use each one of these things independently, each one of the tools that are inside of it. The compressors are fantastic. The saturator, that's tape simulator, I use it everywhere all over my mix if I'm not using Crane Song. The stereo enhancer is fantastic. And its integration with tonal balance control is a game changer when it comes to understanding what your mix is doing from an EQ standpoint. One way I do not like to use Ozone is to just use it for the intelligent assistant. If you want to get your feet wet with that, go for it. It's going to get you a decent end result, but do not lean on it. If anything, Ozone can teach you the fundamentals of mastering and how to approach it. You can see what it would do and then change it. Do what you're going to do better. Pull in those reference tracks. Use it as an analyzation tool, and it can teach you a whole lot about engineering that is otherwise really, really hard to decipher. For that reason, I really, really like Ozone. Their upgradability and their kind of attention to loyal customers seems to be really, really good, and they have a good track record for that. So go check that out. Link in the description, $250 down below. All right, here's my bonus list for those of you who have stuck around this far. Thank you very much. The first one is a delay that I have just recently discovered in the past 3 months. Acoustica Lemon. Let me start off by saying this thing's not cheap. This thing is a CPU hog. It slows everything in your session down, but holy cow, it sounds so good. This delay is lush. It is organic. It's gnarly. It sounds so good. And I haven't even, and I haven't even scratched the surface of everything it can do. The preset bank on this thing is exhaustive. Delay is one of those things it can do, but there's also a whole sonic layer to this plugin that's just insane, and it sounds so good. Acoustica Lemon, holy cow. My old standard delay that I feel like not a whole lot of people talk about, Replica XT. I don't know why, I freaking love this delay. It sounds great on just about everything, and it's really quick to dial in exactly what you want. And you can get really granular with effects and affect the tails in different ways. Ducking is built right into the plugin. It's super fast. It's definitely one of those plugins that I have on for tracking and for mixing because it's really easy to dial in a live situation when a singer wants to just hear some effects and get in the space and get in the mode. I use it all the time, every single session, Replica XT, and it's only $69. Nice. My last one, my favorite plugin that I don't even know what category to put this in because it includes everything we've talked about so far. And if you were just starting a plugin collection, this is it. STL-Tone's Control Hub. Again, I'll say they are not sponsoring this video. Sweetwater is. Control Hub is such an interesting take on a channel strip. What they've done partnering with like artist packs and getting some of your favorite engineers to like put their own chains at your fingertips is super interesting. If you're a guitar player, think of it like getting a Kemper profile of your signal chain for any one given thing. And they have mixing chains, mastering chains. Mayor Applebaum stuff is great on the 2-bus. It's really, really good. If I was going to recommend anything, you could go out, you could buy this plugin if you wanted to. What I would recommend doing is doing the subscription for a short amount of time. Download all the artist packs, download Control Hub, see what you like, and then go and purchase that pack. It's a way you can save a little bit of money. They are constantly adding more stuff to it, and it's a really, really cool set of tools to have in your arsenal. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of my picks. If you think I missed anything, put it in the comments down below. All these plugins are gonna be linked in the description, so if you're hunting, happy shopping. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. I'll see you in the next one.